We're reaching the halfway point of the 2007 Superside FIM Sidecar World Championship. The previous round was held with MotoGP at the famous Assen circuit in Holland and was full of incident and drama. The three leaders, Pavarinta, Reeves and Delanoy, got away well at the start, and soon the battle for the lead developed between these three top teams in the 2007 series. But early on in the race there was a huge crash for Steve Norbury and Paul Napton, just clipping the back of a returning Andy Laidlow and Stuart Graham, and they ended up hitting the barriers very hard, but luckily no injuries to driver or passenger. Another lap later and there was another big incident at the final chicane. Alan Schofield and Steve Thomas turning upside down, and the unfortunate Billy Galros, with nowhere to go, collecting the passenger. That caused the race to be stopped, and it became a two-part race. When the race restarted, rain was falling on the Assen circuit. Conditions were tricky, but Tim Reeves pushed his way into second place and set about chasing the championship leader, Finland's Pekka Pavarinta and Timo Kartiala, winners of round two at Brands Hatch. But they were putting on a superb display in front of this huge crowd at Assen. Fourth position was held by Richard Gatt and Paul Randall. The Kemp pairing, unlucky in Brands Hatch, spinning off. Early championship leaders Markus Schlosser and Adolf Hanni were battling down in the midfield with Andy Laidlow. And then disaster once again for Richard Gatt and Paul Randall. The gear lever coming loose on the machine and they were stuck in fourth gear. In the end though, it was Pekka Pavarinta and Timo Kartiala that took their second win in succession to confirm their lead in the World Championship standings. 9 points ahead of Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance, with Sebastian Delanoy and Gregory Clues holding that third spot ahead of Markus Schlosser. So moving on to round four of the series, we're back across to the east side of Europe, eastern Germany once more, and the Sachenring circuit. MotoGP event once again, a huge crowd here to witness the sidecars racing alongside the MotoGP classes. The Sachsenring circuit, left-handed. The lap record, 1:29.5, held by Sebastian Delanoy, set at last year's event. But after resurfacing work over the winter, the top five teams in qualifying were all underneath that lap record. Pavarinta and Kartiala claiming their second successive pole position. Delanoy and Reeves rounded out the front row. Well, there was a sprint race on the Saturday evening, and that was won by Tim Reeves and Pat Farrance, a good confidence booster for Reevesy. Schlosser and Hanni and Pavarinta rounded out the podium positions, and that result evened things up at the top of the World Championship standings, with Tim Reeves and Pekka Pavarinta joint leaders on 99 points. Well, former world champion in the 60s, Max Doibel, shaking hands with Timo Kartiala. There's Sebastian Delanoy, the Frenchman, on the middle of the front row. On the outside of that front row, the number 77 machine of Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance. So, even Stevens at the top of the World Championship at the halfway point. You couldn't ask for much more than that. Ben and Tom Birchall, superb qualifying in fourth position. The Mansfield pair really coming to the front this year. And Markus Schlosser and Adolf Hanni there on the second row, fifth in qualifying. All those five teams under the old lap record. Sixth place, Steve Norbury and Paul Napton, showing no ill effects from that horrendous crash at Assen last time out. But 22 laps coming up. The gold race here at Sachsenring. Tremendous heat. Tyres were a factor in the sprint race, and that was only half the distance of this one. The long run down into the first corner, and it's Sebastian Delanoy and Gregory Clues that have hit the front, and that looks like Tim Reeves, Pat Farrance in second, with Ben and Tom Birchall pushing their way up to third position from the second row of the grid. Richard Gatt and Paul Randall just trying to get round Markus Schlosser, but not making it through this tight, twisty section. Round this hairpin right, leads up the hill to a double left-handed corner in front of the huge packed grandstands. Over 200,000 spectators here at the Sachsenring, and what a sight they're in for. So halfway round this first lap, there is number 3, Billy Galros and Wayne Stevens on the second of the Team Hanni racing machines. Number 16, Ben and Tom Birchall there in third position, holding off Marcus Schlosser and Adolf Hanni. Richard Gatt and Paul Randall getting a good start, and Pekka Pivarinta down to about 6th position from that front row start. Well, superb shots from that curb cam showing the speed of these sidecars around Sachenring. Coming in to complete the first lap. So still it's Sebastian Delanoy and Greg Clues out in front from Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance. Oh, and there's some gravel there with Billy Gauros, and that looks like Michael and Bernd Grabmüller, the number 97 machine, upside down in the gravel. Wayne Stevens not very happy there by the looks of things as Billy Gauros manages to drive his way out of the gravel. The marshals and medics just helping Michael Grabmüller. Here we get a replay of what happened, and well, Grabmüller looks like he just lent on Billy Gauros. Oh, a big Superman act from Bernd Grabmüller there. Well, good to see both of those up and walking away, but yeah, I think that was Grabmüller trying to go around the outside of Billy Gauros and not giving him any room to get out the way. But up the front still, Sebastian Delanoy coming under pressure from Tim Reeves and Pat Farrance now. Marcus Schlosser has got past Ben and Tom Birchall to take that third position. The track temperature here something like 44 degrees. And tyres, as I said earlier, a big factor. A lot of the teams running a really, really hard tyre to try and cope with the extreme heat here at the Sachenring. A lot of these teams not used to this very hard tyre, so some teams, maybe Pekka Pivarinta, I think he was on the extremely hard tyre. That's probably why he's further down the order on this opening lap. Just perhaps needs to let that tyre warm up a little bit more before he starts attacking. But Marcus Schlosser seems to be the man on the move at the moment. Ben Birchall, another on the hard compound tyre, and he's coming under pressure from Pivarinta and Richard Gatt, and it's 3 abreast as they come into this tight hairpin at the start of another lap. And oh, contact between Birchall and Gatt there. Well, they was. Oh, and that's. I think that's Richard Gatt's race run. No wheel arch or nose cone on that machine now, and they're going to have to pull into the pits. Yeah, and they're already pulling out of the race. So unfortunate for Richard Gatt and Paul Randall once again. Well, if this pair didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck at all, would they? Well, Gatt thumping the side. Well, it was 3 abreast coming into that tight hairpin, and well, 3 into 1 just doesn't really go. Oh, and that's Ben and Tom Birchall. Well, we just saw them have that contact with Richard Gatt and Paul Randall. That's obviously had some effect on their machine, and looks like a big incident for the Birchalls. They both look okay. Coming out of the fast left-hander, well, it looks like a punctured rear tyre, and a big spin from the outfit. Poor old Tom Birchall getting thrown along the tarmac like a rag doll. Oh, and that must hurt really bad. Well, luckily Tom up and running, a little bit winded perhaps, but both walking away from that incident. Well, more drama. What's going on here? Sebastian Delanoy, the race leader. That looks like a big blow up from that 1000cc Suzuki GSXR motor. Oh, Gregory Clues thumping the top of the bodywork there in disappointment. Wow, what a shame, leading the race here at Sachenring, and to have the engine blow up, but that leaves Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance, winners of the sprint race already, out in front of this gold race long event. Marcus Schlosser and Adolf Hanni looking good in second position. The Swiss pairing were leading the championship after round 1, but they've not had some good results in the previous couple of rounds and slipped back to 4th. And that looks like Pekka Pivarinta and Timo Kartiala now up to that 3rd position. The harder compound tyre that they're using perhaps just coming into its own now after a couple of laps of heating up. Fabulous circuit here at the Sachenring. And a replay here of, well, that's Glyn Jones spinning at the first corner, I think that is. Well, just firing the machine up again, and they'll get back into the race. No problem, the DCS Vagabond machine there, but dropping a long way back after that incident for Glyn Jones. Well, here's a battle for 6th position, and that's the Slovenian rider, Milan Spendel, with his English passenger, Mark Pickering, just going past Steve Norbury and Paul Napton. Great showing from Milan Spendel. He's always been outside the top 10 really, but showing well here at Sachenring. And now Marcus Schlosser and Adolf Hanni right on the rear wheel of Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance. That menacing black machine now just inches behind the Team Eastern Airways Suzuki GSXR 1000. And Schlosser looking for a pass as they come down the hill. No, not this time. Electing to stay behind Tim Reeves and Pat Farrance, and getting ever closer is the Finnish machine of Pekka Pivarinta and Timo Kartiala. Climbing up through this final corner on the circuit, the rise up to the start and finish. Tim Reeves takes a long look over his shoulder and he can see right into the eyes of Marcus Schlosser. Oh, and there's a problem for Schlosser. Schlosser and Hanni's engine has gone now, and that's the same place that Sebastian Delanois went. Well, this part of the track's going to be turning into a bit of a sidecar scrapyard in a minute. Oh, big disappointment there. So Marcus Schlosser, a bad race in Assen, only ended up with a handful of points. Low finish at Brands Hatch after a problem. Now that leaves the number 11 machine of Jos Moser in third position. Number 33, Tim Reeves' teammates, Sean and Mark Hegarty. They're up to fourth position. And this is the battle for fifth position now between Milan Spendel, the white machine in the middle, Dave Molyneux, and Rick Long, the Isle of Man TT winners. Well, oh, and it's so tight through there. Dave Molyneux not giving any quarter, and Milan Spendel dropping 2 places. And, well, ahead of both of those was Alan Schofield going through. And his new passenger, Lee Barrett. So a good ride from Alan Schofield. Dave Molyneux and Rick Long just got this LCR chassis at the last event, still getting to grips with it, but getting quicker and quicker as the season goes on. So we've lost Marcus Schlosser, and now Pekka Pivarinta and Timo Kartiala on the right-hand side of the screen, lapping Gordon Shand, closing in on Tim Reeves and Pat Farrance. Pat Farrance just getting his bum dragged through the dirt there on that left-hander. Well, it's a long race. Tim not wanting to overcook his tyres at this stage, and I think, well, another big long look over the shoulder and a wave to Pekka Pivarinta and Timo Kartiala along the straight, side by side as they cross the start line into this first corner again. And Timo Kartiala cheekily waving on Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance, leaning across. Come on, and he says a nod of the head from Tim Reeves. Well, these two great rivals on the track, but really having some fun out there with each other. Well, a replay of that passing manoeuvre as Pekka Pivarinta took the lead, but Timo Kartiala almost patting Patrick Farrance on the head there in that cheeky little wave on. I wonder what Tim Reeves is saying underneath his crash helmet. So the battle for the lead well and truly on. Pekka Pivarinta, Timo Kartiala on the Team Suzuki Finland LCR GSXR 1000. Tim Reeves smoking up that rear tyre as they take the long, fast run down the hill. A tail ender in the way, and that's the number 7 machine of Mark Baer and Aki Aalto, the French-Finnish pairing. Aki Aalto, of course, started last season passengering for Pekka Pivarinta before injuring himself at Castle Combe, making a return to the World Championship this year with the Frenchman Mark Baer. But Tim Reeves right in the slipstream of Pekka Pivarinta. Along the start-finish straight once more into the hairpin, and Tim Reeves on the outside switches to the inside and leans on Pivarinta through there. What a great move from Tim Reeves, just looking across to say, well, you did it last time, I can do it this time, mate. So starting this race, this pair, number 77 and number 44, joint leaders of the World Championship. And, well, really adventurous manoeuvre there from Tim Reeves. Stuck it on the outside. Pivarinta in the middle of the track to protect that outside line. And Reeves and Farrance switching quickly to the inside into the lead. Now look at the rear of the machine sliding around, and that rear tyre of Tim Reeves has got a big black line on the right-hand side of it. If you get the chance to see it, that looks like the start of a blistering of that rear tyre. That's going to start causing some problems for the Eastern Airways machine. Pavarinta's tyre looks in good shape at the moment through this fast sweeping right-hander down the hill. One of the fastest parts of the circuit, up to about 160 miles an hour on these sidecars. Pavarinta looking for the inside line, and once more they must be swapping paint out there. Tim Reeves switching to the inside. Can he again get up the inside of Pavarinta? He's looking for the gap, but Pavarinta sweeps across his nose, cuts the line off. Well, I don't know what colours the green, red, yellow and blue mixed would make, but we'll have to have a look in Parc Ferme afterwards. Tim Reeves up the inside as they come into the hairpin, and Pavarinta once more across the nose of Tim Reeves. No way through this time for the British pairing. Well, I just need to catch my breath for a minute. Tim Reeves sliding that machine through this long double right-hander. Here's that passing manoeuvre once more. Well, there was an inch or so between them, so no paint on that occasion. Pekka Pavarinta once again using his trademark style of using all of the curbs and a little bit more. I think if he had knobbly tyres on, he'd be using a bit of the grass as well. Yeah, that rear tyre of Tim Reeves, look, a big line on the right-hand side of it. And that means that rear Yokohama has blistered in this extreme heat. Tim not using the same rear tyre as Pekka Pavarinta and dropping back dramatically now. Smoking up, that's really not going to last very much longer if he keeps doing that sort of thing. But in just one lap, Pekka Pavarinta's pulled about 2 seconds on Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance. You can see him physically struggling with the machine, snaking all over the place. And there, a graphic representation of the lines on that rear tyre. That should be smooth as, well, smooth as, but it isn't. And the machine even wiggling down the straights as that tyre fails to get any grip from the 200 horsepower almost being put through to this 44-degree track temperature. And that rear tyre really looking as though it's moving about on the rim as well, so extremely hot. Third position then, Jos Moser and Ole Waffler. Moser the Austrian, Waffler the Swiss passenger. Good ride for the Team Tyrrell Delta machine. Of course, we saw their teammates, Michael and Bernd Grabmüller, they were out on the first lap of the race, but no injuries for the Austrian duo. And this team will be looking forward to the next round at the Salzburg Ring. And Moser really putting that tyre through some hell as well. Sean and Mark Hegarty holding fourth position. Number 51, Alan Schofield and Lee Barrett. At the moment, they're in fifth position, but Billy Gowross and Wayne Stevens are closing in fast on Alan Schofield as we come into the closing stages of the race. Number 26, that's the Scotsman Gordon Shand with German passenger Enrico Becker. They're going to go a lap down to Alan Schofield and Lee Barrett. Well, Schofield wants to get by him because he's got Gowross closing in, but there are the race leaders, Pekka Pavarinta and Timo Kardiala. Well, just giving a nod to his pit crew there. I think he knows he's got this race in the bag now. Pulling away by a couple of seconds a lap from Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance. Let's try and have a look at the rear tyre on that Team Suzuki Finland machine. Well, that's starting to get some lines on it now, so beginning to blister up, but I think Pavarinta and Kartiala have done enough to secure this race. Well, Kartiala there just lifting his visor a little bit as they went through that left-hander. This extreme heat, really. I think the last time we saw heat like this was in 2004 at the Hungaroring, and Sidecar fans may remember that's the race that Paul Woodhead collapsed halfway through the race. So really difficult for these passengers. The heat from the radiators on these machines comes out directly in front of the sidecar passenger. So not only the extreme heat to contend with, but about 200 degrees of heat coming off the water-cooled engine in front of them as well. Let's just put them through hell, why not? Once more down the hill into the fast left-hander at the bottom to complete another lap. Tim Reeves, Pat Farrance, they've definitely backed the pace off now. They've settled for second position. Not a lot they can do with that rear tyre in the state it's in. That machine, well, must be struggling to keep the track. Tim sitting up, and that's Steve Norbury and Paul Napton out of the race. Well, they've been making up ground after getting a stop-go penalty for an alleged jump start, but all to no avail as they are now retired. So Pekka Pivarinta and Timo Kartiala on that Team Suzuki Finland machine, the Steam Profi sponsored outfit. They're on their penultimate lap. That rear tyre not looking in bad shape. And, well, to be honest, at the start of the race, you might have had your money on Tim Reeves to look after his tyre better than Pivarinta. Pivarinta's driving style is absolutely flat out, sliding from apex to curb everywhere and still using as much road as possible, but short shifting through that left-hander. You just see the machine trying to slide away rally style through these corners, using a lot of the curb, bouncing the front end over the curbs on the outside, cutting across the curbs on the inside, but looking smooth and effective. So just a lap and a half to go now for the joint championship leaders coming into this race. But if the results stay as they are at the moment, that's going to put them another 5 points ahead of this pairing, Tim Reeves, Pat Farrance. Hard race for the British pairing. That rear tyre now completely shot. Oh, and here's a replay of Tim Reeves coming round that final corner. Absolutely no grip at all from the rear Yokohama. Starting the final lap now. Timo Kartiala putting his arm behind his back, probably trying to get that left hand away from the heat of the radiator. And they're now comfortably ahead of Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance, who will be relieved to see that last lap board coming out into the hairpin once more. And, well, Tim's just got no control over that machine at all. Tries to turn it in, it just wants to go where it wants from the back end. And you've got to be so careful. It would just be like riding on ice at the moment. And of course, riding on ice is something that Pekka Pivarinta and Timo Kartiala are very used to. Big slide through that left-hander. Third position, but a long way back, Jos Moser and Ole Waffler. Anybody that finishes this race in these conditions is a real hero in my book. And Moser and Waffler doing a good job, looking as though they're going to get back onto the podium. Pivarinta and Kartiala coming up to lap Milan Spendel and Mark Pickering. And Milan Spendel is currently lying in 7th position. Thumbs up from Kartiala to the huge grandstand crowd here at Sachenring. Tim Reeves, Pat Farrance make their way down the hill for the final time, trying to get out of the heat. And well, showmanship from Timo Kartiala. Number 1, says Pekka Pivarinta. Number 1 to his pit crew, number 1 to the crowd. They've certainly stamped their authority here in this extreme heat. Sachenring. Tim Reeves struggling to get out of that final corner, absolutely destroying anything that was left of that rear tyre. But a good second place for Tim Reeves. Third place, Jos Moser and Ole Waffler coming through. Everybody looks as though they're struggling to just complete the distance here at Sachenring. Well, victory then for Pekka Pivarinta, and a donut from the Team Suzuki Finland pairing with the Finnish flag waving high. So 25 points for Pivarinta and Kartiala. Reeves and Farrance in 2nd position. Moser and Waffler on the podium in 3rd. A good ride from Sean and Mark Hegarty to claim 4th. Billy Gauros, the Swede, up to 5th position with Wayne Stevens. And Alan Schofield and Lee Barrett in 6th. Timo Kartiala climbs onto the top step of the podium with Pekka Pivarinta. And the Finnish national anthem plays along, but Tim Reeves and Pat Farrance absent from the podium. Well, just managing to get up there. Absolutely shattered Tim Reeves. Well, I've never seen Tim looking that destroyed before, and was brought to the podium by the medics. So good to see him up there. Obviously a really hard ride. Just goes to show how terrible these conditions have been. World Championship standings, 5-point lead for Pivarinta and Kartiala over Reeves and Farrance. Schlosser and Hanny move back up to 3rd position, level on points with Delanoy and Clues. And Moser and Waffler get up to 5th, ahead of a disappointment for Ben and Tom Birchall. Team Eastern Airways extend their lead in the Teams Challenge, ahead of the Team Suzuki Finland and Hanny Racing squads. So a winner piece here at Sachenring for Tim Reeves and Patrick Farrance and Pekka Pivarinta and Timo Kartiala. We go to the Salzburg ring for the next round.